As I just take in this moment, I acknowledge that one life, the one body, that is all things. This presence is eternal. It is everywhere at once. And it is the source of all that is created, the formed, the unformed. It is all living, responsive. And because it is all there is, I know that it is the I am, for it is right now. And because of this, I know that I am living in it. I am living in God, for all things are God. All of the experience that I step into is God. And because it is creating everything and it is creating me, that I am in it and it is in me. And because of that, I know that it is true for all. Every individual is living in God. And that experience of life, the one life, means that all things, all people are one. And so I realize that there are no strangers, for I am meeting the faces of God. There are no experiences that I am not prepared for God is in me, stepping into its own life and its own world. And so I give that truth and experience that in my consciousness and in my body, that I am whole and complete in this moment and all is well. And I know that this is the truth that is within all, for all. And I give great thanks for all that is created, that this God body and this God mind that is giving itself and expressing all in it, that all are blessed in this journey of life, this experience of life, to express themselves and what that God mind would have them be. And so as I release this into that aspect of the divine mind that brings it into being, I know it is whole and complete and done. And I release this as I claim it, and so it is.
So we are working on the year-long theme of a grand rising, something bigger, something greater, something grand, and allowing that to rise within us. And this month our theme is from good to great to grand. We got to play with that last week. And so today we're going to be looking at the values-led life. The values-led life. So what leads your life? Is it your values or is it your fears? What leads your life? And to pay attention to that. So if we want to expand our expression of the divine nature that is within us, as Susan reminded us in that opening prayer, we are God in form. It and we are one. There's no separation. So if we want to expand that divine nature, that love, that life, that light, that power, that peace, that beauty, and that joy that is the nature of the divine through us, we need to first become acquainted with that nature. So many of us have become unacquainted, yes? Through life experiences, through being told silly, stupid, erroneous things about ourselves. In other words, what Don Miguel Ruiz calls the domestication process, yes? And so we're taught to fit in rather than shine out. I want you to find that light within you and start to let it shine out. So as we return to remembering who we truly are, what we truly are, before all the stuff, before all the junk, we return to remembering our authentic values, our authentic what drives us, what calls us. You know, it's one of the things I suggested to Adrian today is to work with the kids to find out what are their values. What is it that motivates them before it gets suppressed later on in life? I bet you one or two of us in this room, most of us not, but one or two of us in this room may have had our values kind of and our shining kind of suppressed during our lives, yes? Yeah. Breathe, let it go. Because we don't have to stay suppressed. That's the good news. We get to break out all over. So as our spiritual practice for the week, I'm going to recommend a process to help you to start to remember and reconnect and clarify those values. But I'm going to do that later, okay? So before that, let's remember that it's one thing to know about our values and another thing to live our values, yes? We talk about how we don't get what we want, we get who and what we are. This is one of our kind of core teachings, is I don't get what I wish for, I get what I am. And it continues and continues and continues. So this points the way to living our life values. To living them, to embodying them, to being them. See, we're a mystical teaching, in case you weren't sure about that. We're a mystical teaching. But we're not the kind of a mysticism that sits on a meditation cushion and contemplates in remote little places, sanctuaries somewhere. Nor are we just about reading books and then debating endless nuances of little fine points of the mystical thought. We're not that. We're about an active, practical, earthy mysticism. How to live, how to experience that oneness in form on this planet. Yes? Yes. In case you don't know, yes, we are. And I'm going to invite you to join that. The awareness of our oneness with an infinite beingness and therefore our oneness with all of life applied to our lives, to our human lives, and then applied in the world. Ernest Holmes says, I don't know God is love just because the Bible said God is love. I know it only if my arms are around someone. And he goes on to say, we don't know that God is peace until we are at peace. Another way of phrasing this was from Mark Nepo from the Book of Awakening, where he says, the dream, and we might think of the dream as our values, the dream is awakened when thinking, I love you. And life begins when saying, I love you. And joy moves like blood when embracing someone with love. We think it, we say it, we act upon it. It starts and moves out. So we're here to know our true nature and knowing what we hold as values and then acting from them, expressing them. And knowing them helps us understand how the infinite energy wants to uniquely express as you and me. Yes? In case you haven't noticed, there's no duplicate you. Right? So you're, oh, I can tell. Do you remember class? There's no duplicate you, yes? Yes. You're the only one? Yeah. You're pretty sure? Okay. Well, in case you're not aware of that, there's no duplicate you. They haven't perfected cloning yet. And even if they did, the clone still would not be you. So the infinite divine energy wants to express itself uniquely in, through, and as each of us. And so we're starting to ask, how is God choosing to express as me now? What a powerful question. How is God choosing to express as me here now? What if we took that as our way of dealing with everything in life? How is this infinite love, life, power, beauty, grace choosing to express as me now? And once we gain some clarity about that, we have to allow ourselves to be expanded to align with, so that our dreams can come true, because we come true to the dreams, and match the beauty, the power, the freedom, the brilliance of who we truly are. Say it to yourself. I am the beauty, power, freedom, and brilliance of the infinite. The power, freedom, and brilliance of the infinite in my body. And thoughts and emotions and my whole life. I am that. We're here to be inspired to act in Spirit's ways and not our accustomed ways. Our accustomed ways are the ways that got us where we are now. Yes? If you want, and that's individually and collectively. And if we want something different, we have to act in some ways that we're not accustomed to in order to create something different. In our teaching, we use a term that's called mental equivalent. And often when people say, what the heck is that thing? I use a shorthand, and I say, well, it's what's normal for us. It's just what's our regular normal. But it's a little more involved than that. If we think about it, everything is created twice. First in thought, and then in form. Yes? The chair you're sitting on was first an idea in somebody's mind before it got manufactured and drawn out, and all the stuff was put together to bring it into form. And guess what? That chair was then sitting in a warehouse somewhere until there was an idea in somebody else's mind to bring that chair here in the color and the place it's set and the building we're in. All of that was an idea in people's minds before it was an experience in form. Yes? Okay. So that's how we create. That is the creative process. Form follows vision. Form follows vision. Follows our intention and attention. What is my intention, and where am I putting my attention? You know, oftentimes I've met people who keep a mental art gallery, if you will, that they walk down of pictures of tragedy and horror and negativity and unpleasantness. And if we keep on having those pictures in our mental art gallery, all of our hurts, that will be what we continue as our vision to see, and we will just continue to recreate it. Yes? If we want something different, we have to hang new art in the gallery of our mind. So it's important to create thoughts and visions. By the way, I'm wearing this t-shirt that says, this is a CSL t-shirt, disrupting the mental equivalent. Changing what has been my normal so it can be something greater. It's important to create thoughts and visions of what we want to create and who we want to be the person for whom these creations naturally flow. See, when I first arrived in this community, there had been a movement for several years of we want a new home. But it had just been talk and ideas and kind of a hope. And it took a little while to work with the consciousness of all of us collectively to say, how do we become the community that naturally manifests this? We had to shift and become something different. The first thing I worked with people on is the old place where we used to meet. When I first arrived, I heard so many complaints. Oh, it's not very pretty, and it's messy, and it was a school, and they had sometimes stage settings up there. I remember the first time I arrived, they were doing Romeo and Juliet, and they had a big kind of a platform up, or a tower up there, and I said, so is that where I'm delivering my talk from? And I was assured that that was not a functional tower. So, but I thought of those. I can't remember. It's just the Episcopal churches. There's certain churches that have a big raised, sort of platform for the priest to stand up on and deliver. We don't do that. I don't want to do that. So how we see ourselves is how our life will show up. How I see myself is how my life will show up. So let's play with that for a moment, okay? You want to play with that? Do you want to expand how you see yourself? Would that be all right? So last week I invited you to look in your mirror every day and say, I am greatness in form, or goodness in form, or grandness in form. Do you remember that for those who were here last week? And hopefully you did it. I'm not going to test you. You don't have to stick your hands up. Today we're going to stretch it a little bit more, though. So this past week I received an email from a friend who's an inspirer and a motivator, and it began by saying, hello, you amazing powerhouse. I loved it. I've looked in my mirror every morning since and agreed with her by saying to myself, hello, you amazing powerhouse. By the way, it feels pretty dang good. Because the truth is, beyond all the lists of how we're not enough and how we haven't done things right, how we're not lovable enough, and all the BS that we were told growing up, all the BS that our inner critic wants to throw at us, yes? So we don't have to face our actual fear of really going out and being the amazing magnificence we are in the world, because frankly, we're scared of our light, as Marianne Williamson points out in her wonderful essay. She also reminds us that playing small serves nobody. Take a breath. Let your magnificence fill up. We're afraid of being our amazing magnificence in the world because we're afraid someone won't like it. Someone might disapprove of us. Too bloody bad. Because behind all that, we know that we are God in form. We are this infinite presence in form. And it's time to tell our inner critic and all those external critics to sit down and shut up. Yes? Yes. To remember as we celebrate the divine feminine today, Laurel Ulrich's wonderful quote from 1976, who said, well-behaved women seldom make history. By the way, the same is true about men. Well-behaved, if we fit in and are proper and everything, do not make history, don't make waves, and don't have an expanded life. As we remember this, we start to set free the imprisoned splendor and magnificence which lives within and as each of us. And I had this thought this week as I was writing this talk, that if certain people can be as outrageous as they are, including outrageously nasty, and still have the admiration and support of millions, perhaps it's time that we got just as outrageous in expressing our truth, our real values, the infinite love of the universe, our desire for and belief in a world that works for all. Perhaps it's time that we disrupted the mental equivalent outrageously. So let's start by having an experience, all right? Let's have an experience of embodying the idea that we are amazing powerhouses. And before you charge into this, I invite us to take a breath, to start to become conscious. Just be aware of who you are, where you are. Mark Nepo says, when we hesitate in being direct, we unknowingly slip something on, some added layer of protection, like wearing gloves, that keeps us from feeling the world. And often, that thin covering is the beginning of a loneliness which, if not let go of, diminishes our chances for joy. I'm going to invite you to take off your gloves. To go past all the lists and all the critics, to find our own magnificence. And then I invite you to find someone nearby and look at them. Determine who's going to speak first. And then before speaking, take a moment to really look at them. To look past their lists and their criticisms, maybe even your lists and your criticisms about them, and truly see their magnificence. Go ahead and do that for a moment. And when you're ready, the person who decided that they're going to speak first, look at that person and say, "Hello, you amazing powerhouse." Say it with feeling. And the person being spoken to, take a moment to truly let that in. Breathe it in. Don't rush to brush it aside with a quick, "Oh, thank you." But sit with this expression of the divine who's looking at you and taking the time, the attention, and love to truly see your magnificence. Take that in. And don't talk it through, just take it in. Now take a breath. And when you're complete, trade. Center first, see their magnificence, and say, "Hello, you amazing powerhouse." And breathe that in and feel it. So settle into this. Settle into this. Jim, don't talk it out. Just settle into this. This is one of our ways of dealing with something that's this deep, is we try and talk it away. Settle into it. Let the soul feel it. Let the heart feel it. So settle into this truth of you and the infinite love it's expressing to you through another divinely, humanly divine being. Susan said a little slip that she corrected herself on, but our bodily God, or whatever it was, bod godly. Emerson reminds us that we are inlets and we may become outlets of the divine. We are infinite love in form. We are that. It wants to express outwards, and so will we be outlets and let it express outwards. So you've got 2 bits of homework this week. The first one, as you might imagine, is look in your mirror this week and say to yourself, "Hello, you amazing powerhouse." Not just first thing in the morning, but every chance you get. Remind yourself who you truly are. Breathe that in. That's your first spiritual practice for the week. The second one then is referring back to our values, to begin to become familiar with your values. And the way I'm going to recommend you do this is to start to make a love list, which is an extensive list, long list. This is not 3 things, okay? This is an extensive list of things you love to do. Not just I love chocolate, but I love to be eating chocolate. It's different, right? See, I love chocolate can sit in your head, but when I'm starting to say I love eating chocolate, I can start to taste it, yes? Action. The things you take actions for. I want you to make this list of everything, extensive, big and small, serious, silly. It's a brainstorming list. What do I love to do? Everything. No editing. I expect sex to be on everybody's list. Okay? We're not the kind of church that doesn't talk about that. You're not turning this in, by the way. You don't have to edit it. The practitioners will not be asking for your notebooks next week to go over and make sure you did it right. You're just exploring for yourself and reminding yourself What do I love to do? And you might think about this at your work, at your hobbies, what you love to do in your free time, some of your favorite memories, what you love to do as a kid. Yes? What do I love to do? You know, I started this a couple days ago, and I love to drive in my Miata with the top open on a beautiful sunny day. And I also love wonderful music, and I love spiritual stuff, and I love nature. And yesterday I was driving through a beautiful wooded area in my Miata with the top open, listening to Ricky Byers. And I went, there's 4 things right there slammed all together. Yes, I love it. And pay attention to that, not just let it go by. Because oftentimes we're taught to dismiss that stuff. We're taught, well, you should enjoy life after you do all your obligations, all your things. No, pay attention to what you love to do. Track it, make a list of it, write it down. Next week we'll do something more with it, but this week just keep a notebook handy and pay attention throughout your week as you go. Are you willing to do that? Those 2 things. You're going to look in the mirror, say to yourself, hello, you amazing powerhouse, every day, multiple times a day, and then keep a track of what is it that I love to do. To just remember and learn how God uniquely enjoys itself as us, getting to know our authentic self. I'm going to close with a quote. This is again from Ernest Holmes at Asilomar. We have a study group going that's really powerful, and we had a great session yesterday. I know Sherry was there for that. Ernest says, we surrender. Sorry to the person who doesn't like the word surrender, but I'm going to use it anyways. No names. We surrender not to some abstract love of God, which has no meaning, but to the warm, pulsating rhythm of feet upon the pavement, and the horse's hooves, and the roots of the grass, and the song of the lark, and the wild power and surging strength of the waves, the freshness of the wind, and the dew and the rain in our face, and the warm embrace of each other. That is what I invite you to do this week, is to pay attention and find out what is it that I value within myself, what is it that I value in life. We have an affirmation to support you with that. Say this with me, with enthusiasm. I am an amazing powerhouse, and I learn and live my real values. One more time. I am an amazing powerhouse, and I learn and live my real values. So it is. Thank you.